Listeners, good morning again. Good morning, viewers. This morning, we talk about common sense. Common sense and an acceptance of the practicalities of life. And from a political perspective, we talk about politicians who are in touch with the people, who have their finger on the pulse of what the public wants, and then retire to craft the best approach to delivering on those wants. Also finding out what people need and seeing how best they can meet people, even halfway, with what they need. This quarrel over buses has to again get the treatment this morning from us. Tony did a fantastic take yesterday. Vaz had his demonstration and his press conference yesterday. PNP issued a statement yesterday as well. But the implications of the points raised in opposition to the bus service, I believe it shows leadership at its worst. It underscores political unintelligence. It underlines how some people can be representing people for so long and yet be out of touch. Given the pronouncements coming from the weekend, a stranger would have thought that the proposal for a rural school bus service program, as put on the table by the government, and more than that, put in train because phase one is well underway, that it was some idiot overnight proposal hashed out on the sidelines, written on the back of a piece of paper. You go up on a platform, you're forced to speak, or you just reel off some things. You'd have thought that what it was, rather than what it is. As I said, something that we've been told is phased, and we're seeing phase one. We've seen evidence of the buses coming. So the promise for phase two, we hold that promise, and we expect that promise to be delivered because we see the units of the promised delivery with our own eyes. So after they lost their collective minds on the weekend, and it is commentary of like this, of course, that make people say, oh, you're supporting the ruling party. Job, when we hear it, is to use this segment of the show, the opinionated segment, to say what we think. Otherwise, we interview people, and some of you are smart enough to know the difference between when you're interviewing someone as opposed to when you're giving your opinion on something. Yeah? But anyway, the loss of collective minds on the weekend and the statements by men that are now a matter of public record and which can't be walked back, and the burning of bridges with certain people who may have been sympathetic to your overall message and your approach before, but hearing you disgrace your intellect and your position with the war you waged on a bus program, with the crowning statement being from one of the wealthiest men in the country that I would not let my picnic travel upon them bus day. What a condition. As if it is ever possible that any of your children could travel on a public school bus. So, this morning, I looked back at the PNP statement before the minister's press conference yesterday, trying to weasel themselves in public favor of this matter, trying to, as they say in the streets, fight back for the forward where them lose over the weekend, because it was the forward What do I mean by the forward? The reaction of the masses on the weekend as idiotic statement after idiotic statement was made about the buses. And the people really, hey, forward them and get the reaction from the crowd. I believe that that's what pushed them to say some of the things that were said about the buses. And now you're trying to fight back for the public acclaim in a different way when it has become very obvious that you got it wrong. That the criticism was so wrong that even the most ardent comrade, and I've watched and I've listened to and looked at chats on various platforms, even the most strident comrade who has an answer for everything is struggling, droning to justify the position that their party has taken about these school buses. So reading the statement issued by Mikhail Phillips, and poor Mikhail, he always finds himself in the position of leaders more senior to him in the PNP doing things and saying things. And then he has to come with a statement to try and do damage control. Poor soul, what a burden to carry. His statement on Tuesday. The PNP reaffirms its support for the implementation of a comprehensive rural school transport system that ensures students can travel to and from school safely, reliably, and with dignity. Hello? The PNP reaffirmed its support. Where did it affirm the support before this statement yesterday? Tell me, in all of what was said on the weekend, where was the affirmation of that support to support your statement on Tuesday that the PNP is reaffirming this support? You're not writing for fools. You know how to talk to people who don't. So we know what words mean. It's our trade. To reaffirm your support for something, obviously, you don't need to be a scholar to figure this one out. You'd have had to affirm it or to establish it before, and you're reaffirming it now. Tuesday's statement reaffirms nothing of the sort because there was no affirmation for this thing before Tuesday. The statement continues. The party maintains, however, that such a system must be grounded in safety, operational efficiency, and with specifications suitability to the Jamaican terrain for long-term sustainability. You call that word salad. The current government initiative, which involves the importation of decommissioned buses for use on rural routes, raises serious questions on all three fronts. So the three fronts: safety, operational efficiency, and with specifications suitable, should have been suitable, but the statement says suitability, to the Jamaican terrain for long-term sustainability. Lofty goals the PNP is imposing. All right, fine. It says the current government initiative, which involves the importation of decommissioned buses for use on rural routes, raises serious concerns on all three fronts. It continues. Phillips now, quote, "We support the vision of a rural school bus system, but what we oppose is the reckless manner in which the government is going about its implementation, importing decommissioned buses that were taken out of service abroad and are not designed for Jamaica's terrain or operating conditions." And I hear the whole class, if Jamaica were a class, the whole class shouted yesterday when they saw this statement. So where before have we used buses or motor vehicles in Jamaica built in foreign that we import here that were designed for the Jamaican terrain and conditions? Where? When? So what is this? To say that because the buses are not designed for the Jamaican terrain, like which buses before? Which bus is made in India? Tata is from India. Japan, the United States, wherever in Europe that they make vehicles, the manufacturing hotbed, Sunderland in the UK, where Nissan had a factory for many years. Where in those countries did we buy vehicles from before that they were designed for the Jamaican terrain and with specifications for rural areas? Does Jamaica alone have winding roads? The statement continues. The PNP has noted that these buses were retired from service in their country of origin, specifically because they had aged out of systems considered safe and reliable for school children. It is therefore highly questionable for the Jamaican government to now deploy these same units to transport Jamaica's children across hilly, winding rural routes without tests and a clear public explanation of their fitness for purpose or maintenance capacity. You see? PNP, you're not listening. The pilot phase of this program, which not one stakeholder has raised any concern about. Initially, there was a concern about, well, the timeliness, because the bus wasn't on time, wasn't able to deliver the students to school on time. They fixed that. The buses are being tested. In case you never know, it's not September yet. September is to come. So what is happening now is to test, to look at the system, timeliness, how the buses perform on the roads, how the retrofitting holds up to what is required, how the electronics or the GPS, the app monitoring, all of those things. That is what is happening in this phase. And I'm not saying that the bus program proposed, well, not being proposed, it's implemented, is perfect. No. But in Jamaica, we're not used to getting things perfect at the start, just like that. You work to get there. So there's room to question certain things and room to criticize. And room for the PNP's alternative plan, which I've heard, and which is different from what is here. Here's why that point about the PNP's plan being different from this which is here. It says, currently, rural school transport in Jamaica operates through a long-standing, community-driven model where private contractors provide buses that transport students to school each day. These buses are a regular feature outside rural high schools across the island during the school week, having picked up students from surrounding communities along established routes. The service is generally organized and paid for by parents or through school arrangements, offering a reliable and flexible transport solution that has become deeply embedded in the rural education landscape. I imagine the person who wrote this sentence fell asleep after. It is so beautiful. So well written. It is telling you of a blissful reality, and that this system, this program, this service is coming to damage that, because it is so blissful already that where it is not meeting its needs, all you have to do is increase the funding and it will work even better. Rubbish. Children in rural Jamaica have a serious problem getting to and from school. The PNP's plan is not to provide buses, and that is clear. But it is because of public criticism why people huddled now and say, all right then, how do we craft a statement to stay true to the germ of our criticism on the weekend, but at the same time drawing in some of the things that people have been saying that we should not say, and make it all into a statement to show that really and truly we support a rural school bus system. When your spiel on the weekend was that you do not support a rural school bus system, you're going to give the money to families who are not on path. 20,000 you said. That's not the PNP's plan. A rural school bus system is not the PNP's plan. A rural school bus system is the JLP's plan. And it is up to the people to determine which plan is better. And you sought on the weekend to show that the JLP is inferior because of all bus them I use, and Pitney I got dead if them take the buses. That is what you said on the weekend. So where does the statement come from? This flowery statement, brilliantly worded, drizzled in honey and caramel. Where it come from? What's the use of it in light of what happened on the weekend? And how is it that you're going to make TikTok comments, Twitter comments, Instagram comments shape what you say? It is your responsibility, PNP. Come with the policies that are coming from your budget debate presentations and that your spokespersons have been saying week in, week out. Stand by them. Tell us how they will work. But when you lose your mind on the political platform, and when the public turn them back on you, you try to manufacture a way to get back into the good graces and say, oh, well, we were supportive of this thing all along. Can't fool we. Can't trick we. Not today.